While most of the time getting a present in the mail is the highlight of your day, there are some packages that might be better left unsent. Welcome back, most amazing friends. I'm your host Kennedy, and today on Most Amazing, we are counting down the most terrifying packages you could ever imagine. So get ready, because this is the top 10 scary packages people accidentally received. Starting us off at number 10, Amazon. It's happened to everyone at some point. You order something from Amazon, and when it arrives, it is completely the wrong package. It's a harmless mistake. At least it usually is. In the case of this next story from Reddit, it's actually really freaking scary. Quote, "I have never figured this out. This was about 6 years ago. I came home and there was an Amazon package waiting for me, addressed to me. Not at all unusual. I buy tons of stuff off Amazon." The user then went on to explain that they figured they must have forgotten they ordered something, so they brought it inside the house. From there they explained, quote, "I took it in the bedroom, opened it up, and it was a machete, a real one. I'm thinking, this is a funny error, someone picked the wrong item. But after checking the invoice inside, they realized that the item matched it. Not yet panicking, just confused, they decided to check their Amazon account, assuming they must have maybe ordered it and forgotten, but after a brief check on their account, they confirmed they had not accidentally ordered a weapon. In fact, there were no pending deliveries to the address to begin with. So who sent them this threatening package? Was it a stalker, a friend playing a prank? Apparently, they never figured out who sent them this mysterious package, but safe to say it freaked them out for quite some time. Coming in at number 9, medical supply delivery. One woman wrote into an article to share her crazy experience, and I definitely would be weirded out if this ever happened to me. Quote, "This week, while checking my credit card activity online, I saw an unauthorized charge for over $600 from a medical supply company. Now, thankfully, she was able to get her credit card company involved and the payment was reversed. But then, quote, "Yesterday, the mailroom of my high-rise apartment building called and told me that I had a large box that was delivered. My husband had to haul the box up to our apartment with a dolly. Lo and behold, it was a family 5-pack of CPR mannequin dummies." At this point, she is very confused and calls the company to say it's a mistake. They give her a return label and she sends it back. But then the very next day, she had another delivery, this time from a different company. And what was inside? Well, another 5 of the same CPR dummies. Clearly, there was some creep out there who hacked into her card, found out where she lived, and really wanted her to have these CPR dummies. And although she wasn't hurt and managed to get her money back, she was definitely shaken from the whole thing. Coming in at number 8, Peggy. When Jane Harris, a paranormal investigator who specializes in haunted dolls, received an unexpected package in the mail, it did not take her any time to figure out she had been sent something terrifying. Inside the package was a blonde-haired doll with a note explaining that her name was Peggy and that she was haunted. Apparently, the woman who mailed it had tried seeking a priest out to exorcise the doll, but it was unsuccessful, and the woman no longer wanted the doll in her house as she was starting to fear for her life. Jane began an investigation immediately, posting numerous photos online for feedback. Not a day later, she had 80 emails claiming that the photos of Peggy had made them nauseous or given them intense migraines. Then she got the most frightening message of all. Apparently, one woman suffered a heart attack after looking at the photo. And while she survived, a heart attack from a photo of a doll is just straight up terrifying. After just 4 days in her custody, Jane began feeling Peggy's wrath and suddenly became very ill. However, when a friend took the doll away, Jane's health improved immediately. Soon, Jane learned Peggy liked to invade people's dreams and give them haunting news. One woman said Peggy came into a dream telling her to watch out for her cat. The next morning, her cat died. After a while, the spirit that was trapped inside this doll made life life very difficult, and so Jane eventually gave it to a museum. Peggy is now locked away under constant supervision and actually requires a waiver before you can see her face to face. Next up at number 7, people. Okay, so this next one is less scary in actuality and more so in theory, because literally how did anyone let this happen in the first place? Back in 1913, the parcel post service began in the US and quickly revolutionized package delivery across the country. With this new system, you didn't need to haul your parcel to the closest big city. You could just drop it off at your local office, provided that it weighed less than 11 pounds. What I am sure the delivery service was not expecting was for parents to attempt shipping their newborns across the country to visit their grandparents. Well, to their shock, Mr. and Mrs. Boge in Ohio posted their 10-pound bundle and shipped it off for 15 cents, along with a $15 insurance for the package. And I wish I was joking, but things got even more out of hand once the weight limit increased to 50 pounds. Another 2 parents wanted their 5-year-old to visit grandma, but felt the cost of the train was far too high. So instead, they attached the required stamps to the girl's coat, and she was shipped in the mail carriage of a train all the way to grandma's house. Thankfully, by 1914, the Postmaster General put a stop to this practice, and while there might not have been bad intentions, there is just so much that could have gone wrong here. Coming in at number 6, Atur Bhuck. I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in saying that it doesn't get much creepier than some random sicko targeting minors. Well, unfortunately, that is exactly what happened to over 50 students in the United States who received unsolicited care packages from someone named Atur Bhuck. An investigation into the situation revealed he had likely been reaching out to the victims online and took advantage of their age in order to find out enough information to send them these strange and creepy packages in the mail. The packages in question, however, were a bit cryptic, only containing food and a letter with his email address so they could reach him and continue talking. Just give me a moment to vomit. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can all put 2 and 2 together to imagine what his endgame was here, but the weirdest part of this whole thing was that the packages were actually sent directly to the victims' schools, which authorities have not been able to confirm how he got access to. I mean, thankfully, none of the victims here were severely hurt or anything, but still, this is just so creepy. I can't. Coming in at number 5, poop. There are a lot of strange things I can imagine getting in the mail, but one of the most disturbing would be someone else's feces. Well, just you wait for this one. Formerly a nurse, Della Marie Gibson pleaded guilty in 2021 to 2 counts of sending biohazardous materials through the US Postal Service to her husband's ex-wife. The biohazardous materials in question, well, besides the poop that I already told you about, was also a blood-stained feminine hygiene product that she admitted came from a patient at her hospital. I can't. Gibson told investigators that she mailed the products as she wanted the kids to know the truth about the ex-wife, that she was lazy, didn't work, and lived off the system. But as if this wasn't enough, she was also previously arrested on vandalism charges after damaging the woman's car. I mean, I have so many questions. Like, what could your husband's ex-wife have possibly done to make you feel like this was a justified response? And like, his poor ex-wife getting literal poop and blood in the mail from your ex-husband's new wife? I mean, I don't even know what I would do. Next up at number 4, a foot. Rightfully so, it takes quite a bit of effort to reach the leader of a country directly. I mean, they are pretty stacked with security, for obvious reasons, but it's also not impossible. That being said, years ago when Stephen Harper was still the Prime Minister of Canada, he received a shocking package in the mail. Apparently there was a voter somewhere in the country that was so deeply dissatisfied with his election that they decided to take a little inspiration from The Godfather and mail him a severed human foot. Now, who this foot belonged to, how and why they had it, and how the hell it was not flagged in the mailing process is not public information. But I can only imagine the sheer terror the former Prime Minister must have felt when he found out what someone had sent to him. Plus, as if one inexplicable body part wasn't enough, a few hours later, authorities intercepted another suspicious package from the same origin, and that one contained a human hand. No one is totally sure, or at least it wasn't shared with the public, if it was meant to be some kind of of death threat or what exactly, but yeah, severed human parts are definitely one of the scariest things I can imagine receiving from an anonymous source. Coming in at number 3, the Watcher. It all began back in 2014 after the Brodus family bought their dream home in Westfield, New Jersey, and started receiving taunting letters from someone called the Watcher. They had not officially moved in yet as they were renovating, but only a few days after closing the deal, the father noticed a letter addressed to the new owner. The first letter began stating, quote, 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. The stalker then finished by saying, quote, why are you here? I will find out. They thought it was strange, but really began to panic when another letter arrived 2 weeks later. The second letter contained threats that they were committed to monitoring the family and that they could track them no matter where they were in the house. The following letters became more frightening. The Watcher was learning about their lives, knew personal details about all members of the family, and was seemingly threatening to hurt them. Quote, have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement, or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. These stalking letters continued for over a year and eventually resulted in a massive legal battle with the previous owners. However, the Brodus family never moved in, and the identity behind the Watcher was never discovered. Coming in at number 2, deadly letters. In September 2001, a mere week after the devastating events in New York, the FBI learned of a new attack on the American people, and this time it was coming through the mail. Robert Stevens, who worked at the Sun tabloid, received a letter in the mail and soon began feeling ill. A few weeks later, he visited the hospital due to shortness of breath and nausea, and 4 days later he died. As it turned out, the letter he received was only the first of many containing the devastating bioweapon anthrax. After Robert, several news media anchors and senators were targeted by these deadly letters. Another 4 died and 17 more were badly infected. With political leaders dying from what appeared to be another foreign attack, the FBI became involved very quickly, and the ensuing investigation became one of the largest and most complex in the history of US law enforcement. In the end, the truth was even darker, as according to the FBI, it was an inside job with a sole perpetrator, a government scientist, Bruce Edwards Ivins. Apparently, Ivins had spent most of his life developing the anthrax vaccine, but the program was failing, and so the belief is that he purposefully was attacking high-ranking society members to instill panic and rejuvenate his vaccine program. At least, that is the story they settled on after Ivins took his own life in 2008. And last up in our number 1 spot, a nationwide attack. Between 1978 to 1995, a former mathematics professor, Ted Kaczynski, turned wilderness man, became one of the most wanted men in America. It all started in 1971 when he left his city life for a remote cabin without electricity or running water. He lived here for several years, learning survival skills in order to become completely self-sufficient. But when destruction of the surrounding wilderness began impeding on his reclusive lifestyle, Ted decided to take matters into his own hands, and concluded to fight the impending industrialization and its destruction of nature through domestic acts of violence. And so began the nationwide mail bombings and one of the longest FBI investigations in history. Now, I think it's pretty safe to say, if we're talking about terrifying things to receive in the mail, that this is top of the list. I mean, he was literally mailing active exploding devices to unsuspecting people under the guise of environmental activism, and tragically this man's acts took 3 people's lives and severely injured another 23. Thankfully, however, he was caught and sentenced to 8 consecutive life sentences for his crimes. Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.